this is how I would describe it. Your goal is your desired outcome. It's the thing that you want to achieve. Your system is the collection of daily habits that you follow. And if there's ever a gap between your desired outcome and your daily habits, if there's ever a gap between your system and your goal, your daily habits will always win, right? Like almost by definition, your current habits are perfectly designed to deliver your current results. Like whatever system you've been running, let's say the last 6 months or last year, whatever collection of daily habits you've been following have carried you inevitably to this place that you're at right now. And, there, again, I mentioned this earlier in the conversation, there are, of course, other forces, right? There's luck and randomness and so on. But I think largely speaking, we could say that is true, that the things that you repeat day in and day out, the system that you run carries you to this outcome. And so for all of those reasons, I think we should focus much more on the daily habits, on the system, than we do on the goal and the outcome. And as you mentioned, there's sort of these downsides or, these negative effects that come from focusing too much on the goals. So the first one is that, as you mentioned, achieving a goal really only changes your life for the moment. Like it's only a momentary thing. It's not like, this is one of my challenges when people talk about like a 30-day challenge for habits or, 21 days and then the habit is formed or whatever. It's like habits are not really a finish line to be crossed in that sense. It's not like just do this for a little while and then you'll be a healthy person. Achieving a goal only changes your life for the moment. The second thing though, and I thought this was so interesting when I first came across it, is that the winners and the losers, so to speak, in any given domain, they often have exactly the same goal. So, say you're at the Olympics and you've got 25 people competing in an event. Presumably all of them have the goal of winning the gold medal. Right? It's not the goal that makes the difference in their performance. Or if you have a job opening and 100 people apply for a job, presumably all of the candidates have the goal of getting the job. And so a goal might be necessary, but it's not sufficient for success. What you really need is the daily habits, the preparation, the behaviors that lead to that outcome. Now that I've criticized goals a little bit, I should say, I do think they can be useful. And two of the things that I think they can be useful for. So one is clarity, setting a sense of direction. If you have a clear goal, you know what direction you want to row in, or in the case of a team, what direction you want the whole team to row in, get everybody on the same page. And I also think they're useful for filtering. If you have a goal and somebody comes to you with an opportunity, they say, hey, would you like to join or work on this project? Or are you interested in this? You can run it through that filter of your goal. And it's easier to say no if it's like, oh no, that doesn't help me achieve my goal. But short of that, I think that it's much more useful to focus on the habits in the system. And most of the time we probably spend, 80% of our time, let's say, talking about outcomes and goals and what we want to achieve and what the future should look like.
Yeah.
And I think it should be flipped around. It should be, that's fine. We know where we want to head. Now let's put the goal on the shelf and focus instead on the system and the daily behaviors.
Yeah, and another way to merge these two ways of thinking is to recognize that the real goal that you want to achieve, the more rational goal, is to find a mode of life that is genuinely fulfilling. And by definition, that has to be a process that you find fulfilling, right? It can't be just the landmarks that go whizzing by as you reach your goals. This is where the hope of getting the remembering self and the experiencing self to converge for me is found, if it can be realized. It's in recognizing that more and more your life is genuinely fulfilling, not just at the retrospective level of the story you tell yourself, but in the moment-to-moment sampling of your experience, you realize you're satisfied with it, and those satisfactions can become deeper and more subtle and more ethically salient, and there's an integrity and a harmony to one's living that is, there are not these radical discontinuities between who you wish you were and hope to be and who you in fact are in each moment. You're hoping to be a good parent, but you find yourself shrieking at your kids in a way that later embarrasses you, right? Like ironing that stuff out is a goal to which it's rational to be devoted. And the only way to do that is in improving moment-to-moment responses to one's life. And so it is with anything else, like fitness, right? Like yes, you want the goal, you need to have the goal in mind of achieving a certain level of fitness. Well, let's say you want the scale to give you a certain number when you step on it, or you want to be able to lift a certain amount of weight. But the actual satisfaction comes in finding a way of working out that you actually love to do. It's satisfying to do it in a way that a bad habit is satisfying. It's just not the future that is paying dividends for you, but it's actually what you want to do in the moment.
I agree with that. A habit is not a finish line to be crossed. It's a lifestyle to be lived. And it's really once you embrace that lifestyle, once that is aligned, as you're mentioning, you also, to bring it back to what we spoke about a couple moments ago, about the rewards of good habits often being delayed, you're no longer delaying it then, right? You are feeling good in that moment. And so that, I think, makes it much more likely that you'll stick to good habits. And this is another one of the core ideas in the book, this concept of identity-based habits of, the goal is not to finish a marathon. The goal is to become a runner. The goal is not to read 30 books a year. It's to become a reader. The goal is not to do a silent meditation retreat. It's to become a meditator. And it's really once you start to assign that identity to yourself, which I think is best done through building small habits that reinforce that identity, then, in a sense, true behavior change is really identity change. Because once you have this new narrative to tell yourself, once you have this new way to look at yourself, you're not even really forcing yourself to do it anymore. You're just acting in alignment with the type of person that you see yourself to be.